Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Food Experience. Today's experience, I'm reviewing the Gluck Air Fryer Oven. This was sent to me free for the purpose of review, and I first want to give them a big thank you for letting me review this item. I will post a link to where you can purchase it down in my description below. It's available on Amazon and it retails for around $170. Comes with a whole slew of accessories. I really like everything they provide and it works really good. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the Gluck Air Fryer Oven. And here we go. Here's a look at the box that the air fryer comes in. After unpacking the air fryer oven, this is everything you will receive. There is a user manual, quick start guide, recipe book, and 1-year warranty card. A rotisserie retrieval tool, rotisserie shaft and skewers, rotating basket, rotisserie spit, rotisserie forks, set of thumb screws. There's a set of oven gloves. They give you mitts and also the square kind. There's also a drip tray and also doubles as a fry tray. And check this out, folks. I never seen anything like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 airflow racks. They're kind of like mini air fryer trays. Well, not really mini, it's just that they're not very deep. But they do have a depth to them. They're like from here to here. There's also your main air fryer tray, and this thing's pretty large and definitely has a good depth to it. Lastly, there's the Gluck Air Fryer Oven. This is a different looking oven in a couple different aspects. On the top, there's some warm tips. Also, warning about a shock hazard. These are the warm tips and the electric shock warning. The door itself, it actually like clicks open and close. You have to use some force to open it. And there's really only 2 positions, open and close. One thing I noticed immediately at the bottom, I don't see any kind of a heating coil or heating elements or anything like that. The only ones I do see are located at the top. There are a bunch of different slots. As you can see, I have 5 trays loaded in at the same time. There's also the larger air fry basket. Inside of the oven, the motor for the rotisserie on this device is to the left, and the stationary part that the rod drops into is on the right. There's a look at the stationary part on the right side, and there's a look at the motor on the left side. On the bottom, it's kind of hard to see because everything's black, but there are 4 suction cups for the feet. I've never seen that before, and I really like that idea. Also to note, the top of the oven, there's this plate right here that sits on top. And I believe it's also ventilation because there is a gap between going all the way around, and I think it needs to breathe through this section. It probably is an air inlet. On the rear of the oven, there's some additional ventilation, and this is probably an exhaust, I'm imagining. The power cord has 2 prongs, and one of them is polarized. The height of the air fryer is about 14.5 inches. The width is a little over 14 inches. The depth from the handle to the rear is also about 14 inches. When you first connect the device to power, everything will illuminate on the panel, and then you're left with a light, power, and rotisserie option. If you press the light, the internal light will light up. Press it again to turn off the internal light. Next is the power button. Press it once. Everything will illuminate. You have all these different cooking options. You also have temperature and time. And if you want to change the temperature, you could press it. It goes 5 degrees at a time. And same with the time. If I want to lower the time, you could do it 1 minute at a time. So as it is right now, I have it at 185 degrees for 1 minute. And as you can see, it cycles between the temperature and time. To start the cycle, press the power button. And you'll see the air fryer fan and like a heat icon right there. There are 10 different function presets. Fries, steak, fish, shrimp, pizza, chicken, bake, rotisserie, dehydrator, and reheat. But one thing I notice is if you go to bake and turn it on, the air fryer fan is on, so it's not a true bake. So if you really want to bake something without an air fryer fan, you're not going to be able to do that with this device. As it's off, you will hear it cooling down. The fan stays on for a little bit. Once it's cooled down, that will turn off. Each one of these presets has its own designated temperature and time. So if I go to French fries, it's set for 20 minutes at 400 degrees. Steak, 370 degrees for 25 minutes. Fish, 390 degrees for 20 minutes. Shrimp, 320 degrees for 12 minutes. Pizza, 360 degrees for 15 minutes. Chicken, 380 degrees for 20 minutes. Bake, 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Rotisserie, 400 degrees for 30 minutes. Dehydrate, 90 degrees for it looks like 4 hours, I believe that is. And looks like they go in half-hour increments for the dehydrator. And the dehydrator could go up to 24 hours. The temperature range of the dehydrator is from 90 to 170 degrees. Last function is reheat, default 240 degrees for 12 minutes. Or you could choose not to use any of those functions and just power it on and just use temperature and time and hit the power button to start. One thing I notice about this oven, the front part, I'm sure you could hear it, is plastic, and inside is glass. The first thing I would do is to make sure the device works and maybe do a little bit of a burn-in test. So I'll increase the temperature to 400 and I'll put the time at 20 minutes, hit the power button, and let it run through this cycle. Also, I want to let you know that this icon right here where it showed warming up is now gone. That's after 5 minutes. So it looks like it takes about 5 minutes to reach 400 degrees. Also, you probably could hear the air fryer fan. It's not that it's loud, but it's something you could definitely hear. And I could hear the air getting sucked in through this area, so that is an air intake at the top. Make sure not to put this under a cabinet or in a tight space or anything like that. You definitely want it to breathe. There you go, the cycle is complete. Now it's time to try some sample cooking examples. Time for some French fries using Lamb Weston's super crispy crinkle cut fries. I will be cooking them in the rotisserie cage, and I will be installing the drip pan at the very bottom. Preheat to 360 degrees, upping the time a little bit higher to allow for the preheat, and let her go. Air fryer fan is on and it's preheating. Time to load this up with some French fries. I have the cage fairly full, I would say, at least halfway full, if not a little bit more. Has a nice snap, I will say. Also to note, I do have the rotisserie rod installed, and the thumb screws actually were pre-installed on the rotating basket or rotating cage, whatever you want to call it. Inserting the basket, left side first, followed by the right. That feels like it's in there. Close the door, and it will resume. And these fries recommend 360 degrees for about 11 to 13 minutes, but I really filled it pretty full. So I'm going to go for 15, and you want to press the rotisserie button, and the cage will start turning. There it goes. There's a better look at the operation. Definitely appears to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. I'll let this go and we'll check after 15 minutes. Another thing to note, I put in that drip pen, and I'm glad I did because there is a lot of debris on there from the fries rotating around and around. I'll show you once the cycle is complete. There we go, 15 minutes is complete. I'm using the rotisserie retrieval tool that came with it. And you want it to go right on the thin part of that rotisserie rod. Lift up the right-hand side and pull out. And there's all the debris I'm talking about that went onto the drip pan. I decided against using the gloves that came with the product. They are really thin, and I could tell these are really hot. Ooh, those look pretty good. And the fries are looking pretty good. There's a little bit of crispiness look to them. Let me try one off to the side. Definitely have a crispiness to them. I just seasoned them with some Red Robin. Yeah, definitely came out pretty good. Have a very light crunch on the outside, but nice and tender inside, which is exactly how I like them. This time I'm trying Pillsbury Grand's Southern Homestyle Buttermilk Biscuits. They actually have air fryer directions on these. Spray bottom of basket with cooking spray. Place biscuits in air fryer basket. Air fry at 330. Do not preheat. So that's interesting, but I will follow that. Cook 8 minutes, turn biscuits over, cook an additional 6 minutes until biscuits are deep golden brown and cooked through. Oh, and it's one of those products with bioengineered ingredients. That's always fun. All right, let's do it. There we go. That's always a surprise, isn't it? I'll make 6 of them. That sounds pretty good. I'm not sure which rack position to put these in. I think I'll go right in the middle there. Close the door, turn it on, change the temperature to 330, and the time to 8 minutes. Let her rip. There are 2 minutes remaining, and they're getting pretty brown. I'm moving them down a level. One thing I will say is it looks like the biscuits in the back are a little bit darker than the biscuits in the front. Oh, there we go. Time's up. Let's remove. That's what I'm looking at. The instructions say to flip them over, so I'll do that. And I'm also rotating the basket so that the biscuits that were at the back will now be at the front. Put the tray back in, and I'm going for the lower rack. Power on, 330, 6 minutes. Start her up. There's 2 minutes remaining, and honestly, they're looking like they are pretty done. The bottoms are definitely a golden brown. That's what I'm looking at. Load a couple of these bad boys onto a plate. See if I can split them open. They're pretty hot still. Oh yeah, they're definitely done. And now for the finishing touch. I made sausage gravy yesterday, and I spiked it with some Carolina Reaper powder. And I think this is going to make for a dang good breakfast. I don't know if y'all have had biscuits and gravy before, but yeah, that looks good. So I definitely think it's a job well done for the Gluck Air Fryer. Finished up a little earlier than I thought, and time to eat. Time to make a pizza. I have a Totino's Party Pizza combination with pepperoni and sausage. All right, it's preheated. The heating icon is now gone. I have the pizza right on the tray, and the real thing is where to put it. Last night I cooked it kind of on the bottom. I'm going to go up a little bit this time. See if that makes any difference. It says about 13 minutes, so I will adjust the time to 14 just in case. So it still has 9 minutes to go, and I can tell by just looking at the top, it's already looking like it's pretty much done. I don't want to totally incinerate this pizza. I'll try removing it using their oven glove, which is really small. Oh yeah, the heat goes through that pretty quick. I would not use that at 400 degrees. But wow, yeah, this pizza sure looks well done, which is why I don't normally support the idea of baking pizza in air fry mode. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You see how extra well done that is? And it's only cooked about half the time. Maybe a little more than they recommend. Let me use the temperature probe. Oh yeah, 190. I probably could have removed it earlier, but the bottom, let's check that out. Try to cut it into some slices. It did brown a little bit, so there you go. Air fried pizza in the Gluck. Time to dehydrate some habaneros in the Gluck. I don't think I'll be needing all the different shelves, but first what I need to do is cut these open and slice them up. I'll do that ahead of time off camera. I managed to get 2.5 trays full. Close the door, turn it on, go to the dehydrate option. Starts off at 90 degrees. I'm upping it to 135. Set the time at 10 hours. I may not need that much time, but here we go. All right, now these should be done. I did rotate the trays a little bit during the process. Also, from the start of the beginning, I started at 135, but I lowered it down to 130 shortly thereafter. But let's check some out here. Oh yeah, definitely nice and dehydrated. Total time was about 16 hours. Next thing to test out is the Skewer Accessory. Each one of the skewer racks has a thumb screw and a place for the rod to fit through. Make sure the screw is out far enough. Insert the rod. And maybe a little bit in. I would say maybe a ½ inch at the most. Now attach the other end. Put the rod right through it. About a ½ inch in, I would say. I'm just guessing. It's my first time ever trying this. But make sure that both the thumb screws are tightened. Not overly tight. You'll want to be able to get them out. But just nice and hand tight. Before loading up your skewers with your items, I would make sure the skewer fits in there. It should go through this hole at the other end. The other end right here will just drop in and kind of push this clip in and down, just like that. It will lock into place. Now would be a good time to preheat the Gluck. Turning it on, rotisserie, temperature defaults to 400, and I've never cooked these before. I will try it at 400. I'll set the time a little bit higher just to allow for preparation and let her go. I have the chicken and the veggies that I prepared earlier, and they've been marinating for about 2 hours in the refrigerator. Since I've never done kebabs before, I'm trying to think about the order in which I'm going to do it, and I think I will go chicken, onion, pepper, and then tomato, if that all fits on there. Here we go, piece of chicken, onion, bell pepper, orange bell pepper, chicken, onion, yellow pepper, chicken, and tomato. And I don't think you want things totally touching. Like, they could be a little touching, but I don't think they're supposed to be jammed tight. So I'm loosening it up a little bit. And I think that should work out. I'll do the rest of them off camera. I loaded up the skewers as much as possible. I did start to run out of things. So, time to load them up. Insert it into the hole on the right first. Let the left drop in place and kind of pull back and push down. And I'm doing the rest of these off camera. I thought I was filming, but the camera was off. Sorry, folks. But I inserted the left-hand side first and let the right-hand side fall into place. Then hit the rotisserie button after closing the door. Away it goes. Check back with you in about 15 minutes. It's been going about 18 minutes, and I believe it's probably done. I temped one of the pieces, and it was right around 167. But look at that. Wow, that looks good. It has some nice color. One of the tomatoes fell off, folks. See it down there? That's my bad. Never done skewers before. Next, using the rotisserie removal tool, you want to hook it into those slots on the sides of the rod and pull up the right-hand side first and pull it right out. Check that out, folks. That is pretty darn beautiful looking, if I must say so myself. That's what I'm looking at. That looks really, really nice. The veggies got a slight char. The chicken has some nice color. Definitely another win for the Gluck Air Fryer Oven. Time to make a tri-tip. I will be cooking it on the rotisserie inside of the Gluck Air Fryer Oven. For this operation, you will need the rotisserie spit, the rotisserie forks, and 2 thumb screws. First thing to do is to slightly insert the thumb screws and give a couple twists, but not too far because the rod has to go through this area. You want to look at the piece of the meat and figure out what's the best position for the rotisserie forks. And you want to put the rod kind of right through the middle so it's weighted evenly on the rotisserie. Using this end of the rotisserie spit, not this end that drops into the hooks, but this end that goes into the motor, I would probably go through the thinner end first, push it all the way through, and there we go. Next, slide on one of the rotisserie forks, making sure it pierces through the meat, to flip it over and tighten up that thumb screw. On the remaining side, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm positioning the forks up the other way. Tighten the thumb screw, and should be good to go. I'll be using the Meter Plus wireless temperature probe to monitor the cooking. You want to insert the probe in one of the thickest parts, so I'll try right here. Right now the internal temperature is 45 degrees. I'm setting up a cook, beef, roast, tri-tip, and recommended is 135 degrees. Start cook. Now time to preheat the Gluck. Turn on the power. Going to the rotisserie option, it's really a shame this only goes to 400 degrees. Would have been nice to go to 450 or 500, but we'll try it at 400. Time doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to up the time just to allow for extra. And start her up. As soon as it's up to temperature, the heat icon will go away, and then I'll insert the tri-tip. I'll be starting out at 400 degrees, hopefully to get a good sear for 10 minutes. Then I will decrease the temperature to 250 to go low and slow. Okay, it took about 5 minutes. It's up to temperature. Insert the left side first into the motor connection. Drop down. Close it up and press the rotisserie button. And away it goes. I'm letting this go for 10 minutes and then I'll lower the temperature. In fact, I'll even set the time to 10 minutes just so I don't go over. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but one thing that's good to note is the oven is holding its temperature pretty good. I've noticed it go anywhere from 395 to about 407, and that's great. That is a great fluctuation right there. It has about 2 minutes remaining. According to my meter app, it says 14 minutes remaining. That's at 400 degrees, so I'm stopping it, opening the door a little bit, letting the oven breathe for a second and cool down. Then I'll be starting it up at 250 degrees for the remainder of the cook. Already the meat's up to 74 degrees. That's what it's looking like so far. Okay, internal temperature of the oven's down to 280. That should be pretty good. Internal temperature of the meat's at 82, so it's not going to really take too much longer. I was hoping it wouldn't have gotten so high, but that's all right. Lowering the temperature to 250 and starting it up, and hit the rotisserie. I noticed this time it's turning the opposite direction. The first time I was turning that direction, so it probably changes every time you start it up. And when it gets near 135, I'll pull it out. All right, time's up, ready to remove. Starting the resting phase, using the rotisserie retrieval tool, position it in the slots that you see there. Right side first, and it pulls right out. Tenting it while it rests. So time is up. Internal temperature is 134. Target was 135. And what's really interesting to note, when I cooked it this way, I removed it at 135. It never went over 135. Normally when I cook a steak at high heat, it really rises. Doing it this way, it really doesn't. And that's just something to note. So I'll be curious to see what it looks like when I cut it open. Okay folks, that is what I'm looking at. Now I would like it a little bit more done. A lot of people like it this way. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a look at the Gluck Air Fryer Oven. I showed you a bunch of different cooking examples of what to expect. And I do have some pros and I do have some cons. Even though I received it free for the purpose of review, I'm still going to give an honest, unbiased opinion. So, I have notes. I like to be a little bit organized, right? I think you already know the basics, but just in case, it is a 20-quart air fryer oven. It features a dehydrator and comes with a whole slew of accessories, including a rotisserie rod and spit, rotating drum, skewers, 5 airflow racks, and the drip pan, which also doubles as a cooking tray. I think it's a really good deal, that's for sure. I really like the suction cups on the bottom. It really helps it keep in place pretty well. So let's go over the cons first, because I believe the pros definitely outweigh the cons. One thing, I wish it went up to 450 degrees. 400 degrees is fine for most all items, but 450 degrees would have been just that much nicer. The included oven mitts and pads are basically useless, okay? Unless you're cooking something like at a super low temperature, maybe between 200 and 300 degrees. Otherwise, I would not use those things at all. They definitely get super hot. One thing that kind of annoys me is the beeping sound. I realize all air fryers have them, but when you're holding down the time and temperature to increase or decrease them, the beep stays solid. It should detect that you're holding the button down and just beep once and not keep going beep. And I'll show you what I mean. Here we go. Turning on the device. So if I want to change the temperature, hear that? Time. It does beep singularly if you just press it one at a time. But if you hold it down, yeah, I really don't dig that. You know, I think that's something the company should fix. It's not like you're going to be holding those buttons down all the time, but if a user does do it, and you see my video, you know what to expect. This device only features upper heating elements. There are no lower heating elements. So what that means is anything that you want to get nice and crispy on the bottom, it's going to get cooked on the bottom because it circulates the air, but it's not going to get super crisp because there are no heating elements directly hitting the bottom of the food. So that has its good and bad points. The good point about it is anytime you're using the rotisserie or skewer or drum, you don't have to worry about the lower heating elements possibly getting dirty, and that drip pan sits right at the very bottom, lower than all the different cooking positions, and I really like that. It gives a lot of clearance, especially noticeable when I'm using the rotisserie rod and also when I use the skewer set. I think it's a nice compact size for a 20-quart air fryer. I like the design. It's very clean looking. I like that it doesn't really have ventilation holes on the sides of the device. The only thing is don't stick it underneath in a tight space in a cabinet because it does need to breathe from the top, and make sure to pull it away from the wall so the exhaust coming out the back has some place to go. It heats up to full capacity, 400 degrees, in 5 minutes. I think that's pretty decent and fast. I also like that it does kind of have a preheat. I showed you when it's heating up, it has a little heating icon there, and when it's up to temperature, the icon disappears. And throughout the cooking, you'll see it turn back on again and off again as it is heating and regulating the temperature inside of the device. Definitely cooks food evenly and proper. The only exception was pizza, and it came out pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've done pizza in other air fryer ovens on air fry mode, and they don't usually come out nearly as good as this did. Although it did burn a little bit on the top, it cooked super fast, and it did get the bottom a little bit brown, just not nice and crunchy crispy like I like those Totino's pizza to be. I also love the fact that they give you 5 of those airflow racks. They're super shallow, decent sized air fryer baskets. I use to dehydrate habanero peppers. I could see a lot of different uses for those when you want a shallow air fry basket. You know, you don't always need a super deep one, and this way you could cook multitudes of things at one time. Definitely like that. And the regular air fryer basket, it is like so super deep, deeper than any of the other ones I've seen that come with an air fryer oven. I also like that it's user configurable without having to use any of the presets. There are so many other air fryer ovens I've used, and you always got to start off with a preset. Even if it's a basic one like air fryer bake, you just have to do it. With this, you could just set the time, set the temperature, hit start, bingo bango, you're all up and running. Also, the device seems to operate fairly cool on the outside. The top is running very hot, the sides are very warm, but they're not scalding hot. And the front, it has the plastic front, but the glass behind it, and I really think that helps cut down on the heat that you feel out of the front. Definitely a nice design. I mean, overall, I think it's a very good device. I definitely recommend it, despite the couple of flaws that I found with it. So don't forget, make sure to look at my description. I will have a link back to Amazon where you can pick up the Gluck Air Fryer Oven. I definitely think it'll be a good choice, providing it fits within your needs of everything I mentioned. So I think that's just about gonna do it, folks. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please drop me a line down below. I love hearing from you. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. What do you got to lose? I got all kinds of good videos coming up. And until next time, have a stellar day. Be excellent. And most of all, remember me, I'm KJ Andy O, your food experience host with the most. Y'all take care, and I'll see you next time.